It's the 90th Annual Academy Awards, and Stella and I have watched all the nominated films, minus four. You'll find out which 3 or 4 in the next episode. For now, we're going to talk about all those who have been honored by the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts, and Sciences in a special 9-part series. This one is all about the faces, the talent that crackles on the screen, 30 feet tall. We're going to discuss the performances, starting with Best Supporting Actor. So another film that only got 1 nomination is The Florida Project. Willem Dafoe. He has 3 previous nominations. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri has Woody Harrelson with 3 nominations. Also Sam Rockwell, and this is his first nomination. The Shape of Water has Richard Jenkins with 2 previous nominations. And All the Money in the World has Christopher Plummer. He has 3 previous nominations and 1 win. Already the oldest winner of a competitive Oscar, winning at 82 for Beginners in 2012. He famously replaced Kevin Spacey and filmed his entire role in just 8 days. Stella and I actually saw a sneak peek of this movie, and when it was over, I looked at her and said, Christopher Plummer is probably going to win an Oscar for this. And then I found out that he did the whole thing in 8 days. I knew he had replaced Kevin Spacey, but I didn't realize he had 8 days to do it.
Yeah, and he did it on location, if I remember right. Like, they flew him out there. He wasn't just on some green screen or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's one scene where he's clearly on green screen. But that's...
for the most part,
They would have had to take him to Africa or wherever that scene was filmed. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. And they just probably placed him right on top of Kevin Spacey. And I guess there's one shot of Kevin Spacey in the movie, but I didn't catch that.
I didn't see it either.
But, yeah, a lot of great performances here. 2 from the same movie, which is always interesting.
Yeah, I don't like that they're competing against each other. I feel like you should pick one of the better ones, because then it opens up a slot for someone else that could have deserved it.
Well, a nomination increases your bank, but Woody Harrelson already has 3 previous nominations, so they could have cleared out that spot and put just Sam Rockwell as his first nomination.
That's not. That wasn't my point. I think Sam Rockwell deserves to have his nomination because he was fantastic.
Yes.
He did the Green Mile in preparation for this role.
Richard Jenkins, of course, his performance was nuanced and interesting in The Shape of Water. Dealing with his attraction towards
the fingers.
The studio guy, and just the studio guy, the diner guy. And his hair and all that. He gave a great little, and it was comedic and brave and true all at the same time. And of course, Willem Dafoe, who was just natural.
Shoo, get out of here, go.
He seemed like
he was shooing birds.
Yeah, well, he shooed the birds, but he just seemed like the guy. And I thought it would have been better if they'd blacked out his front teeth. Because here's the thing about the Florida Project, and I guess I should mention it because it's not nominated anywhere else. All the characters felt like people that I knew when I lived in the trailer park. And so I knew guys that looked a lot like Willem Dafoe, but his teeth are just too clean. Not to say that the people in the trailer park had bad teeth, but I know people very much like him that, that are missing, I don't know, they don't look like movie stars. And Willem Dafoe doesn't typify a movie star, but he still looks like a movie star.
Well, I liked it because it's really hard to be the guy. Most times whenever you're acting, especially in a role, you're amped to do a character, especially when it's a smaller part. You want to have it something standing out. You want to have it something special. He was just like, nah, screw that.
Yeah, he played it very natural, and it worked because he's working exclusively with first-time actors, all those people.
And they're also very outrageous. And
they were great. They were really great. But, one of them was cast off of Instagram, which is fantastic. We live in a world that can happen. And
so your brand starts when you were 5 in your first photos of your parents taking of you.
Yeah, sure. And then let's talk about Sam Rockwell, of course. He is the favorite, I believe.
He is.
Yeah,
he's
the biggest favorite.
The longtime favorite. And I think he's the favorite by a really far margin, too.
It's interesting. There is a backlash against him here because the big backlash.
Is it him or is it the movie itself?
Well, it's the character. It's the performance. They say that he's normalizing racist police officers, and
is he?
He's helping you to sympathize with a racist cop.
Or are you sympathizing with a human?
Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't get is maybe they haven't watched the film, but There's a part where he, without giving too many things away, he does something very terrible to a non-minority. He does something to a white person, and he comes back in and says, "See, it's not just black people I have problems with.
Well, yeah, he's
I got problems with white people too."
Right. He's displayed as a general asshole, and it's been alluded to that he's done terrible things to specifically minorities, but he's been a jerk to basically everyone.
Yeah, he's just
except for Woody Harrelson's character.
He's a dumb, angry guy, and he plays him very well.
Yeah.
Sam Rockwell plays him like no actor could, and you do have sympathy for him. But you don't have sympathy for a racist cop. It's disingenuous to say that's what it is.
It's all about the arc, right? You have, and what was it? What's his name? The famous basketball player?
Kobe Bryant?
No.
Michael Jordan?
No.
Dennis Rodman?
No, I can't remember.
Shaquille O'Neal?
No. He wrote a note about it, and it was publicized. He wrote a letter about 3 billboards, and he was basically capitalizing. I thought I sent it to you. He was basically capitalizing on the fact that the characters all have a distance to go because they're all broken in some sort of fashion, right? So you have Frances McDormand's character who is angry at herself for allowing her terrible relationship to overcome what was necessary for her to have a good relationship. And then she has to go through this arc. And then you have Woody Harrelson's arc of what he's going through in the story and it finishing out. You have these two people who have a bit of a shorter arc because they have better morals than Sam Rockwell's character, who is just... Sam Rockwell's face is likable. He looks like an idiot and an asshole, but he's still kind of likable when he wants to be.
Right. Most of us are long-time... If you're a cinemaphile, then you've been a long-time fan of Sam Rockwell.
Right. And you see his character who is just a jerk, and you can't find anything redeemable, and then you see other parts of his life, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I can understand that, but that doesn't excuse something that's happening or whatever could have been alluded to. And he still is on his arc by the time the end of the movie goes. It doesn't relinquish that. You know what I mean? And it's all about that whole story about how you have to be on the journey. You have to at least start somewhere.
Right. Yeah. I also think it's interesting that he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor when the first half of the movie is clearly Frances McDormand's and the second half is pretty clearly Sam Rockwell's. He stole it.
Yeah.
Well, it's his.
I think it's all
kind of changes characters in a way, and so he could have been nominated for Best Actor, and that would have fixed the issue with having Woody Harrelson competing against him.
Maybe, but I also think they intentionally did it that way so they could have Frances McDormand be highlighted.
Yeah, and I think Sam Rockwell's got a better chance as Best Supporting Actor, especially this year. But yeah, I think he's probably going to walk away with it. And not to say that any of these other performances aren't great. This is a great category. Well,
ever since the last episode, all the categories have gotten tighter. The early episodes, you kind of have a clear winner, or we're just too dumb to know the pattern of who the clear winner would be. But it's now it's definitely where it's obvious where the strong points are, and everyone has it.
Yeah, a lot of these are anybody's guess, whereas the Oscars used to be kind of buttoned up by the time we got there.
Who's more artsy-fartsy?
So here's a category that I think is a weaker category. There's some really great contenders here, but Best Supporting Actress, we've got Mary J. Blige in Mudbound, who's also nominated for Best Song. I, Tonya has Allison Janney. It's her first nomination. Phantom Thread is Leslie Manville, first nomination. Lady Bird has Laurie Metcalf. It's her first nomination. And The Shape of Water has Octavia Spencer. She has 3 previous nominations and 1 win. Here's my thought on that. Allison Janney and Laura Metcalf, absolutely
nailed it.
It could be either of them that could win this year's Oscar.
I think Allison Janney's going to run away with it.
The other 3, Octavia Spencer's performance is pretty good for what she was written. I don't think she was written a whole lot. Mary J. Blige didn't have anything really to do in that movie. And Leslie Manville, I don't understand how she got nominated. She has a very realistic performance, but the part doesn't do much. She does. There are little subtle things that she does in her performance, but I don't really. They're not strong competition. They're not strong competition for the other 2.
I think Leslie Manville is slightly flat in the sense that she's the sister and the strong silent archetype.
This is one in a coming episode we're going to talk about who we would replace and who we would replace them with, who should have been nominated. And this is going to be the category, I think, where there's a lot of thoughts on that. But to me, it comes down to Allison Janney and Laurie Metcalf. Now, Laurie Metcalf basically plays my mother. She's really great at it. She's the whole guilting and I don't know. She reminded me, and I think she probably reminds most people that watch the movie of their mother.
The passive aggressiveness is so real.
She's very subtle in her role. They basically play a very similar character because Allison Janney plays a mother very similar to her, but she's like cartoon character.
She's more aggressive passive.
Yeah.
Rather than Laurie Metcalf is more passive aggressive.
Yeah, Laurie Metcalf just won't talk to you, and Allison Janney will hire somebody to call you the C word over and over again. And she's so cartoony and fun as she chews up the scenery. Interestingly enough, these two women are both known for playing on sitcoms. Allison Janney, of course, is in Moms right now, and Laurie Metcalf is best known for her role on Roseanne, although she's also Andy's mom in Toy Story, and she's been in a lot of things. She's also known for The Big Bang Theory, as Sheldon's mother.
I do want to touch on Mary J. Blige's character in Mudbound. It makes me sad that you had in just a part of the movie there was a glimmer of a really good character that looked like it was going to emerge and really going to come out, and it was during the first part of the scene when they first move into the house. And then something happens and they have to go and get Mary J. Blige's character to come to the house. And that was where I was like, oh, maybe they're going to highlight something and they're going to see a struggle and there's going to be a good connection. And then really what it ended up boiling down to is that these two mothers had a connection and then they let it go. Why? Why did they let it go? You really could have had a statement there, and they didn't let it. They just let it try to be quiet and left it there.
I just feel like her Oscar clip is going to be the first scene where she doesn't say anything. She's just reacting to what's being said.
That's
going to be sad. It might be that scene, but it was just underwritten.
But that was my only...
Octavia Spencer's role, again, underwritten. And this brings up an interesting thing.
Was it underwritten because I think it's underwritten because it's a side character.
But see, now you
could have cast somebody else and it would have still been the same underwritten character.
And we have Richard Jenkins playing the same. It's supposed to be the same importance, but they wrote a whole story arc for him.
Like he's evolved, and
her story arc was that her husband was a kind of a
lazy,
and that wasn't
a jerk. And then he didn't give her attention. He's lazy. He didn't do much. And then there's also the big thing at the end where he agrees with everything that's happening, and she just completely disagrees and can't believe that's her husband.
So it brings up a recent thing people were talking about of combining the categories, so it's actors versus actresses, and this is why I don't think it's a good idea. I think one, it doesn't make a lot of difference to split up the genders and judge them on their own levels, but until female characters are written as well as male characters, I don't think you can do that. So, what are the Vegas odds?
Allison Janney's ran away with it. She's a 9-1 odd for the most part, and then Laurie Metcalf is next at 5-1, 1-9 odd, and then it's actually kind of split up with Allison Janney taking most of the popular bet, followed by Laurie Metcalf. But
either of those people could win, and I would be happy. I'd like to see Laurie Metcalf win because
any of the nominated actresses could win, and I'd be happy with it.
Yeah.
But I do feel like they have the strongest vote potential, and they have the strongest characters written.
Yeah, I like those two because they're good character actors, and I prefer character actors over ingenues anyway. All of those nominees are character actors. So, Best Actor, Call Me by Your Name, Timothée Chalamet. It's his first nomination. He was also in Lady Bird. Don't forget, Call Me by Your Name is the movie where the Lone Ranger bangs Lady Bird's boyfriend. Okay, Phantom Thread is Daniel Day-Lewis. 6 nominations, 3 wins.
Melting.
Get Out's Daniel Kaluuya. Is that how you pronounce his name? Do you know? Kaluuya?
I think that's it.
And then I like him a lot. I've liked him since Black Mirror.
That's actually where I first saw him too.
It's his first nomination. Darkest Hours, Gary Oldman, second nomination. He hasn't won. Gary Oldman has not won an Oscar. And then Roman J. Israel, Esquire, Denzel Washington, 9 nominations and 2 wins. Denzel, that's the only nomination for that movie. Roman J. Israel, Esquire. It's a pretty cool movie. And Denzel is great. We haven't seen him be that weak and strong at the same time ever.
We haven't seen him be anything different because he's done like The Equalizer. He's done roles like that several times,
right?
Which are always entertaining. You always want to watch Denzel do things like that because it's just fun. But to see him be more normal in the sense,
not
like
even normal.
He
chose to make the character somewhere on the autistic spectrum and.
William Dafoe, where he's just the guy.
Right.
In that sense, where he's average. He's normal. Like, you could see him walking down the street as this person.
I think it's interesting that they wrote the role for Denzel and didn't tell him that they wrote it for him. Because
and they just hoped that he would take it.
They knew he wouldn't want to do it if he knew it was written for him. But it's not a Denzel character, which I like that. I like it when you write a part for somebody that's going to challenge them and make them
I'm sure they would love it, too. I mean, how many times do they want to play the same thing over and over again? Like, I'm sure Jessica Chastain, after a while, is going to get tired of playing that strong, resilient woman.
Well, they kind of already made fun of that on SNL. Timothée Chalamet is a fantastic actor. It's funny because watching him, I've never wanted them to make a movie out of this source material, but he is Holden Caulfield. If they did a Catcher in the Rye movie right now, because he's getting a little older,
so crummy.
They should do. Yeah, he'd be a fantastic Holden Caulfield. I could just see him smoking cigarettes and reading books and staying away from all the other kids and like putting on his hunting cap
telling
and climbing
everybody
out the window.
It's crummy.
And, talking about the fakers, the phonies, and I would never want to see that book adapted unless they have Timothée Chalamet play that part.
He's probably the only contender that I can think of that would do that.
And then Daniel Day-Lewis is absolutely brilliant in
Always.
Phantom Thread.
Melted.
He's the best part about that movie.
He is. He's the thing that draws you in and sucks you in to watch the whole movie. If you don't, you have to watch his performance and how he just absolutely allows himself to run away with the character and just dive right in and blossom.
Right.
Wonderful.
He's the male Meryl Streep. In fact, I think Meryl Streep probably plays Daniel Day-Lewis.
And vice versa.
I don't know if they've ever been in a movie together. And if they haven't, they have to do it right now.
No, they don't, because he's retired.
Yeah, he's retired. Okay, whatever. the greatest living actor retired. That's great for everyone else. Thank you, Daniel. And speaking of Daniels, Daniel Coulier from Get Out. He's it's that image of where he's just weeping and frozen.
Sunken.
Yeah. That's going to be the Oscar moment. I mean, that's the kind of thing you hope for an Oscar.
Oh yeah, just that first moment of the teacup.
That's and that's a weird one because
scene.
it's going to be him reacting to what he's hearing, but like kind of with Mary J. Blige. But it's just a fantastic scene.
It's different.
It's totally different.
It's different because it's so much more dynamic.
Right.
And I like that. I loved Mary J. Blige's movie, but it was much more muted. Her character was muted. It was much lesser.
Well, she gives them that look. You got to be kidding.
Of course,
is great.
But it's
that's kind of her moment. His moment is just pure
terror,
emotion of like I don't know. We could talk about the power dynamics in that scene. We could talk about that all we want, but
it doesn't matter.
He gives a very good subtle performance. It's you relate to the guy.
He also,
instantaneously.
Like, how do you personify this idea of being sunken? How do you emote and give a visual face for that? Just like in True Blood, they were talking about what does it mean to be glamored? Like, what does your face do? What does your body do? So, what do you do when you're supposed to do something that's so mentally internal that you shut off? Like,
well, he has a face that.
It's very expressionful.
I'm really hoping that he doesn't get typecast in just playing roles that he just has to look, because it's basically all he does in Black Panther. You sympathize with that character because of his face. He doesn't say a whole lot. They just cut to him occasionally, and you're like, oh, okay, I see where he's coming from.
But that's really good to have.
It is.
That's an excellent trait to have, even just in general.
And of course, we haven't talked about who I think is probably going to win for Best Actor, which is Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour. He's kind of overdue for an Oscar.
He is.
He's fantastic as Winston Churchill. He had to read 3 of the best speeches ever written. That was the whole movie's kind of centered around those 3 speeches that were all said within 1 month of each other, and he delivers them in such an impeccable way. And then the scenes where he's by himself or talking on the phone to Roosevelt, those are phenomenal acting moments that any actor would kill to be able to do.
This is where I'm glad that they didn't cover. They didn't cover his face as much, and I know that that's why they wanted his performance to come through. They wanted to make sure that he had every possible chance of displaying his prowess in this sense, and I'm happy for it. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm happy that they left in makeup that they did that, but I'm really glad that his performance was able to shine out.
I'm sure that's the Vegas odd, though.
Yes, it is. 1 to 20 chance with Daniel Kaluuya as the last one. I butchered that name so bad. Gary Oldman is also the most popular bet, followed by Timothée Chalamet. So Gary Oldman's actually at 50% of the popular bet.
Nice. Okay, so Best Actress. We have The Shape of Water with Sally Hawkins. Sally Hawkins is her second nomination. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Frances McDormand. 5 nominations and 1 win. I, Tanya's Margot Robbie. It's her first nomination. Lady Bird. Saoirse Ronan. Yes, it's how you pronounce her name. Saoirse. We looked it up. It's like inertia. She's had 3 nominations. Very young, beautiful girl with just 3 nominations under her belt already. Yeah, because she needs to get busy and get more nominations in that long life of hers. And then, of course, The Post's Meryl Streep. 21 nominations and 3 wins. She's the most nominated actress in history. Most nominated actor in history. Or if you're Donald Trump, she's just one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood. No, Donald. She's either the most overrated actress in all of history because she's the most celebrated actress in all of history, or she's not overrated. That's how it works when you're getting into
your salt
like
level
that.
is so ridiculous.
So Stella, who is your favorite nomination?
This one is so strong, with the only exception being Meryl Streep because of her character. It didn't grasp me the same way that the others did.
Yeah, I think she actually... Okay, here's the difference between her and Tom Hanks, who's another very celebrated actor.
His character didn't grab me either, though. That movie just didn't grab me.
Well, Tom Hanks... I like the movie quite a bit. Tom Hanks kind of chews the scenery, and Meryl Streep does a lot internally. And that's the difference between the two. That's why Tom Hanks doesn't have a nomination this year. Philadelphia and Forrest Gump, when he won 2 in a row, it was more internal. Anyway,
I would love to see Margot Robbie get it. I really would. Saoirse did a really good job with her character, but it was just, I guess for me, it's too close to home. I've had these problems on my own with my own mother, so I couldn't deal with that. But I think Frances McDormand's definitely going to win it and just run away.
Here's the thing about Margot Robbie and I, Tanya, is that watching that movie, I fell in love with Tanya Harding. And I realized that it's probably Margot Robbie more than Tanya Harding, because if they'd cast an actress that looked more like Tanya Harding, I don't think I would have had the same reaction.
Well, they make up to Margot
They did,
Robbie.
And I don't mean it's just about her looks. Margot Robbie is just extraordinarily charming. And by the end of the movie, you fall in love with Margot Robbie for sure, and maybe Tanya Harding as well.
I guess so. I do see Margot Robbie being more of a jerk, and she could definitely, in like say 10 or 20 years, play Allison Janney's character. I could see her doing that too. So that's the thing that gets me about Margot Robbie, is that she could be both Tanya and Tanya's mother.
Well, I think Saoirse is fantastic, and she shows why she keeps getting nominated over and over again. But I think when it comes down to it, it's going to be down between Sally Hawkins and Frances McDormand. And my personal pick is
Sally
with
Hawkins.
Sally Hawkins. Yeah, I think she's gonna win it. I love Frances, but she's already got one, and she was. I think she's great. I just don't think it was the better movie.
Anyway, so yeah.
So those are
And then
the actors. The Vegas odds, Stella?
Frances McDormand's gonna win 1-20 probably, with Saoirse coming up right after that. The popular bet, we're looking at Frances McDormand and Saoirse again. Crazy.
All right, so those are the actors. Now the Oscars are actually starting right now, so we're going to finish our recording of these episodes, and we will see you after the big show.